Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video, and in today's video we are turning our attention to another exotic weapon, one that quite a few of you guys have been asking me to showcase, and that is the Warlord. The Warlord is of course an exotic version of an AK-47, not necessarily one of the most popular assault rifle archetypes, but regardless it is still a very interesting weapon. In fact, the brand new Warlord talent makes this a very interesting candidate for anyone looking to play a more tanky role. So let's talk a little bit about it. If you do enjoy this video, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions and also let me know what you think. But to begin with, this is what it looks like. Again, another one of those crazy gold drug lord weapons. I do wish they had some slightly more exciting paint jobs, but either way, this is what it looks like. As mentioned, it's an AK-47, it has an RPM of 600 and it has a base magazine size of 30. It also, of course, being an assault rifle, deals enemy armor damage, but the reason we are turning our attention to this gun is the talent called Play Rough. Again, reminder that all exotic weapons in 1.6 are going to be getting a unique talent that cannot be found on any other weapon, and also, of course, can't be shared via Alpha Bridge. But Play Rough is the talent where damage taken is reduced by 20% while you are firing. Taken damage is then applied when you stop firing. And just to be very clear on that, the 20% reduction applies when you are firing. You don't have to be firing at anything, nor do you have to be hitting a target. Simply by holding down the trigger, you are reducing your incoming damage, of course, until you stop firing. So it goes without saying that in order to get the most out of this talent, you are definitely going to want to run an extended magazine. I mean, generally speaking, that's a sort of default strategy for pretty much all guns, but especially so with this because the longer you can fire, the more you can fire, then of course the longer this talent will remain active. Now it is worth noting, just kind of in the name of science, this can kill you, this talent, if you take damage and then when you say finish killing the enemy or you finish firing, you are low enough on health. When the talent delivers the kind of 20% damage that you didn't take before, that can kill you. So for example, in this situation, as you can see here, I'm fighting around the corner, I have taken a lot of damage, my screen is red, and then you see just below my HUD, the icon for the talent. This gradually ticks down, and when the meter effectively hits 0, the damage is applied. So at this point, it killed me. Now, generally speaking, of course, if you keep yourself healed and of course you're working through it properly, then it won't really be too much of an issue, and it won't really be, you know, that detrimental. But it is a kind of visible timer, so if you do want to know when that damage is going to take effect, then of course you can work to it. However, the interesting thing to think about with this is the fact that, again, you're taking 20% less damage whilst you're firing. So an interesting talent to pair with this is, of course, On the Move. On the Move being the talent where if you kill a hostile while you are moving, then it reduces incoming damage by 15% for 10 seconds. Now, it's very, very easy to kill a target whilst moving, even if you simply sort of, you know, strafe left or right while shooting, then generally speaking, it is very easy to proc this talent. So if you combine both of these, then you of course be in a situation where you can take less damage by firing thanks to Play Rough, and also less damage through the On the Move talent. So of course, stack those together. If you were to run, say, a stamina build with, you know, armor and health, and actually have a pretty sort of, you know, tanky health pool, then you could definitely get some interesting results with this. Now, of course, if you want to think about gear sets to kind of pair this with, there are loads of options, because to be honest, you're not necessarily going to be using this one specifically with damage in mind. You might be using this a lot more so for survivability, so you are going to be a lot more focused on just specifically speccing for, say, stamina or health than you would for specific gear set talents. But, you know, it's an assault rifle, you can get mileage out of Striker. I ran this with Predator during the latter part of the PTS, just simply because caches weren't available, so I didn't necessarily have the option to get all the different gear sets. So Predator worked quite well. Of course, it means that, you know, you're dealing some additional damage, especially if you do go down the route where you spec slightly more towards tank, you have slightly lower DPS, then of course you can get some additional damage from the bleed. Not necessarily to the point where it makes it up, but any extra damage is always good, right? Either way, I think it goes without saying that this is going to get most use probably in PvE, especially when, you know, like, enemies like that are a lot more predictable. So were you going into, say, like a high-level activity, whether that be like a legendary mission or an incursion, then, of course, you know, you could literally run, you could even just run down the street or run down, you know, the corridor, firing, like, at the ceiling if you wanted to, and you take less damage. So, for example, the brand new incursion, there is actually a situation where you need to walk down a corridor with a box and there are turrets shooting at you. Now, the standard strategy for this is, of course, to just pull up a shield and defend whoever's carrying the box, but you could also potentially go with the angle of firing your gun and walking down to sponge the bullets and, of course, take less damage. So, you know, something to think about. Either way, it is an interesting weapon to consider. Again, if you do want to play that sort of role, it's not necessarily going to be one of those assault rifles that suddenly creeps into the meta and pushes things like FAMAS, LVOAC, or G36 off the top. because again, it is still an AK-47, but it does definitely have its uses. It's a fun weapon to use. I genuinely really enjoy messing around with this. It's probably one of my favourite exotic weapons at the moment. So I'd say if you're looking for something to kind of mess around with, have some fun with, play differently with, definitely consider checking it out. It is a very, very cool weapon. And just as a reminder, the Warlord does of course come from the Clear Sky Incursion. It was a challenge mode drop, but it will also be factored into the exotic caches come 1.6. So exotic caches or the weekly assignment caches, both of which will also be a source for all exotic items, so you can get it from there if you're looking for it. Either way, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.